Hello, YouTube. We are back for the Attack for the X-Men #1. So, what are we going to do today? What we're going to do is we are going to work on the cover. And what I want to do is I want to do an aqueous treatment on it. We're not soaking it, guys. We are at a crossroads with the book. And the crossroads is how far do we want to take it? And my position with this book is I do not want to take it that far because, as I mentioned day in and day out, you're dealing with a situation where the cover is not the strongest. And what does that mean, Jerry? Well, you're dealing with a cover that is Silver Age. And Silver Age, in my opinion, especially dealing with Marvel, is not the best type of cover you can introduce water to. So what I want to do is I just want to lay this cover down just like this on a heavy stock piece of Ramée. I'm using Ramée. And this is from Talus. This is an example of all of their Polytext and Ramée. And this Ramée that I'm using is a thick grade Ramée. So it's a 2014 and it's a heavy duty Ramée. And the reason why I want to use a heavy-duty Ramée is because, number one, I want to, believe it or not, put some fine etching into the paper. And what does that mean, fine etching? What are you talking about? Well, if any of you are home improvement enthusiasts like I am, what do you do when you do some type of tile or painting, such as epoxy paint on garage floors and things of that nature? You want to etch the surface. And by etching, you can put acid on it, or you can rough it up with sandpaper. And basically what you're doing is you're putting little lines or etching on the surface that you're going to paint, or the surface that you're going to apply thin set or things of that nature, so it adheres better. So by using this thick Ramée, once I put it in my book binding press, what will happen is that the fibers of the Ramée will imprint to a degree onto the paper. And this will, in my opinion, help provide a little support for the leaf casting, for the pulp to adhere to. And that's why I am using the thicker Ramée, if that makes sense. So what are we going to do? What we're going to do is I am just going to prepare an aqueous bath with plain water. I am not going to use any chemicals. I am not going to acidify it with calcium hydroxide or anything like that. We're just going to use pure H2O, and hopefully the H2O will draw out some of the tanning. And that's how we're going to do it. So I have my pumper spray on the right. I'm pumping it up. It's just plain water. And what I want to do is I want to wet the Ramée, and I want to wet the cover of the X-Men #1, just like I'm doing now. And then we're slowly going to wet it, and we're gonna let it drip down, and then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna wet it again. And another key thing that we're going to do is I am not going to remove the Rimet until it is completely dry. I do not want to rub any of the inks. I do not want to touch any of the inks. I don't want to do anything. And right now, you can see right here with basic water, hopefully the camera is picking it up, there is tanning that is coming out, okay? I don't know if it's coming up on the camera, but an easy way to do it is through capillary action. I'll put a paper towel there just like this. And remember, the Rimet itself is utilized to protect the document. So let's see if it's coming up. Do you see that tanning just by the water itself? Hopefully it's coming through with the camera. It is no doubt that there is tanning that came up, and there it is right there if you can see it. See this tanning right here? And that's just pure H2O. So believe it or not, we're gonna have a nice difference just by using water itself. And I'll slowly hit it again, and we'll let it drip down to the bottom. I do not want to be aggressive at all. I do not want to touch it. I do not want to remove the Rimet and look and say, "Oh, how's it looking under there?" No way, shape, or form. We just want to use the water, and we want it just to fall down into the vessel, and then hopefully this book will be cleaner and it will be lighter than if we didn't do this. And as you know, I must do this as well, because a key thing that we have to do is we need to what? Does anyone know? Does anyone have the answer? I'll tell you, I'm sure a few people had the answer. Probably Peter Alici, he knows because he does leaf casting. The key thing is I need to get this book dried after wetting it. And the reason why I have to get it dried is because we need to do a color match. We need to work with the pulp, and I need to make it where I can get the pulp as close as possible to the existing color that is going to remain, and most likely it's going to be an off tan or an off-white or a light tan. That's the color that most likely is going to result. So we'll continue wetting it nice and easy. We will not go crazy with chemicals or calcium hydroxide or anything like that, because we don't want to risk doing any harm to the colors itself. And the water itself will rejuvenate, hopefully, the fibers of the paper, and it will make it a little bit more stronger. Plus, with the leaf casting, we're going to leaf cast the whole perimeter, because if you can, of the front cover, I don't know if you're picking it up, but if you can see that the cover for the back of Sergeant Fury, it's a lot bigger up and down and right to left than the cover to the X-Men #1. And that's why CGC usually is able to determine married covers, because it's very difficult to get the same size of the front and back covers when you're marrying pages. So right now we're going to let this sit, and I'm going to let this sit for a good 5 minutes or so, and then what I'll do is I'll come back and I'll hit it again with the sprayer. and I'll do this periodically. And then what I'll do is I will put this sandwich with the Reme and the cover inside. I will put it between my 2 shelving units with paper towels. And then by doing that, we hopefully will draw out more impurities. And I think this is the most prudent way of fixing this book to try to make it a conserved grade. Another thing that's important was that I, in fact, used 2 brand new pieces of Hollytext. I cut it off of my yard roll off camera, because dealing with this book, you want to use new paper, Reme, Hollytext, because you don't want to risk any impurities that may be in the Reme, such as methyl cellulose or things of that nature, because you don't want to pull color. You can look at this book wrong and color will come off of it. I know from experience, especially dealing with the Marvel Silver Age. So right now, let's see if I can lift it up here. And yep, the water is brown, so I am happy. And let's let this sit in the Reme wet like this for a nice 5 minutes, and then I'll come back and we'll do a little bit more work on the book, and I'll show you how I'm going to press it. So hang loose. I'll see you soon. Okay, guys, we're back. I soaked it for a good 5 minutes or so, and I sprayed it a few times. So what I want to do now is I just want to try to absorb some of the liquid or the water off of the cover very delicately. I don't even want to touch it. I don't even want to touch the cover. I don't want to rub. I don't want to rock. If this was a golden age book, I would have no problem doing it. But as you know, Silver Age books, especially this type of Silver Age book, you have to be very delicate. And I don't want to really go to town with it. I want to be very careful so we do not do anything in relation to lifting the color. Because you have to understand, we're also going to be putting this book or the cover also through the leaf casting process. And that process also is not that delicate, because what we're doing is we're using a vacuum and we're sucking fibers of the paper down in trying to do the leaf casting, which we all know I can do it no problem. I am very good at leaf casting in my opinion, and we'll do it. We'll have no problem. But I would hate to have it where we lift color. And I did speak to Kenny Sanderson, my friend. He's, I think, the best conservationist out there. And I'm sort of happy and pleased that him and I became friends, and we do talk on the phone, and we do talk about shop. And what is shop? About leaf casting. Because I don't see many people leaf casting comics. There are a lot of people who do cleaning, pressing, using Japanese tengojo and wheat paste and all those things. But there's not many who at least are leaf casting on YouTube or on Instagram and showing the results like I do and like Kenny does on Instagram. And if you are a follower of my channel, you know that I really used to study, and I still do. I still study Kenny's pictures and try to pick up tips here and there. So it's a nice relationship. I'm very happy that I'm friends with him. So Kenny basically also recommended, don't go crazy with calcium hydroxide or any other chemicals when dealing with this book. Because if it was a golden age book, that's different. But we are dealing with a silver age book, and I probably sound like a broken record already, but you have to be very careful because color loss is something that can easily happen if you don't know what you're doing, and if you're too aggressive, or even if you know what you're doing. It just happens. So we're not going to make this cover bright white and say, wow, look at this. This is a bright white cover, CGC. It's a new book. It's not a new book. As you can see, it's an old book. And it's not in the best condition, but we're going to make it look as best as possible. Okay, so there you go. There is, I'm happy. Again, I don't want to touch it. I do see even tanning that came out, and it's in the Rimet, which is fine, because what's going to happen now is once I put the 2 layers of paper towels on top of the cover, and we basically wrench down on the book in my book binding press, a few things are going to happen. The first thing of importance that is going to happen is that we are going to have a situation where the book is pressed flat, and that's what I want. That's number 1. Number 2, we're going to absorb some of the impurities out of the book through the paper towels once it's pressed in the book binding press. So let me put my second cover on just like this. Okay. And now I'm going to put it in the book binding press. So get ready for some sound effects. Ready? Squeak, 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 squeak. Okay, I'm lifting the book binding press. And now we're going to put this in it. Okay. And then I'm going to wrench down on it. Let's tighten it up. Ready? Squeak, squeak. Okay, there we go. I'm going to wrench down now, and I'm going to make a real strong noise. Okay, so that is me closing the book binding press as tight as I can. So, let's do something, because I see a lot of guys on Instagram and YouTube. They like to do it where they show in the jar the color of the liquid that comes out of the X-Men. And I may even do a funny upload as well. Wow, that's one jar. Let me grab another jar. If I have one, I believe I have one floating around somewhere. So hang out, guys. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So let's pour now the rest in this second jar. Ready? Okay, so I basically used a lot of liquid. Okay, that's enough. Let me dump this out. I'll put this on the side. So, what are we doing? What did we do? Let's take the camera down and let's see if I can get it where we can actually take a look. Actually, I'm going to stop it and I'll bring the camera down like a jet. Okay, guys, there it is. So I don't know if the camera is picking it up, but there's definitely a tanning that came out of the X-Men #1. I am happy with the color, and it is sort of like a dark urine. That's what it looks like. So it definitely worked. And just the water, as you can see, took out nice impurities from the X-Men #1. 1. So I'm happy with it. I'm happy with what we removed from it. And hopefully we did so in a fashion that is going to be very little, if none at all, color loss. So there it is, guys. It is definitely dark, and tanning definitely did come out. So that's it. I'll see you soon. As you can see, someone's home and the dogs are going nuts. So stay tuned.